A Life in the Day of Ruth Crosland. I have been licensed as a lay minister since 2007, much to my continued surprise and frequent joy. My previous incumbent suggested I offer myself for selection, and guess what? The panel agreed. I live in West Christchurch, not far from Bournemouth Airport, having moved here about 3.5 years ago. Before that, I actually lived in the parish of the church where I have worshipped for over 40 years. I share a home with Helen Griffiths. We became friends in 2006 when I did my reader placement with her and the congregation of All Saints Church in Muddyford. When Helen retired from being the vicar of Muddyford, we decided to pool our resources and bought our current home. It is in need of quite a lot of updating and modernisation, and we have a 5-year plan. And despite COVID and some setbacks due to drain issues, no more of that, we are actually pretty much on track. Our home is a lovely space for offering hospitality to others, something which we both enjoy, but has hardly been possible, of course, this year. Also at home, there is my little terrier crossbreed dog, Molly, and Helen's cat called Magnificat, usually referred to as Maggie. Molly is sadly not a good role model for dogs, having a few issues caused by her one and only owner. She can often be quite judgmental and is not really accepting of others, which is somewhat of an embarrassment to me as I'm an ex-social worker. Having a dog has been for me a real pleasure over many years. My first dog, Kim, was 15, and my second dog, Lucy, was also 15, so I'm hopeful that Molly, at the tender age of 9.5, will also make the grade. Our day starts often with a river walk, which is close by, and frequently we are lucky enough to spot the flash past of a kingfisher. Kingfishers have a special place in my heart and in my memory because some 50 years or more ago, I can't really believe I said that, but it's true, some 50 years or more ago, I was the patrol leader of the local Girl Guide company, Kingfisher Patrol. It's a real treat nowadays to see, after sitting for a short period of time on a bench, the flash of the orange and blue of the kingfisher as they fly so speedily up and down the river. They seem to me to be quite creatures of habit, and their flight times are often quite predictable. For me, this time of the day is when I usually bring to God particular cares and concerns I am aware of. I know as I walk along the road of our next door neighbour who was bereaved a couple of years ago, and another woman up the road who has only recently been bereaved. Also there's the young father who has PTSD and the family with the new puppy. These moments are kind of like a prayer walk, which I've heard other people say that they do. For me, this is only the really usually quiet part of the day, just Molly and me and the occasional other dog walker. One of my favourite books is a book written by Rabbi Jonathan Wittenberg, in which he talks about how having a dog, his dog Mitzpah, has actually made him a better human being. There is no doubt in my mind that animals have much to teach us and much to bring into our lives. Molly and I have travelled extensively around Europe on our own, her pet passport taking her to places all over Europe, and she's mostly been well accepted. For me, travelling with her has instilled a sense of confidence to try new things, go to new places and meet new interesting people. Most days I get up just after 7. Molly still has a work ethic, and for her 7:20 is far too late. The first job of the day, of course, is to let the dog and the cat out and make the tea. Occasionally, I am up much, much earlier. If there's something in my mind going around in circles, I make it a rule that if I'm still awake after half an hour, I might as well get up and make a cup of tea. These early morning sorties downstairs often provide the glorious opportunity for some catch-up TV. Recently, I watched a documentary which was very fascinating about Maggie Hamblin and was captivated by her portraits of subjects both dead and alive. I'm quite interested in art and I'm hopeful soon of catching up with a programme on Radio 4 entitled Moving Pictures, which discusses paintings from the radio perspective, and if you have a computer, apparently you can download the images. It has been well reviewed in the Radio Times. During the summer, I developed an early morning habit of watching episodes of the current hot series called Fleabag. It was much discussed at the time because there was a hot character priest, and also some of the actors were employing the use of the technique called breaking the fourth wall, something which I didn't really know much about. I prefer to watch dramas, and I'm interested in how the characters develop because I'm interested in people generally and I like to try and work out how they tick. I'm not really keen on murders or forensic science programmes. However, at the moment, Monday evenings are a joy on the television because, of course, they're full of quizzes. Even, of course, I have no idea how Only Connect still works. Years ago, I remember during my reader training, the Reverend Duncan Strathy, him of the quite fantastic waistcoats. In fact, I don't know whether he has a nativity one, a bit like this one. This is my lovely nativity waistcoat made by one of our parishioners out of 2 tea towels. You might be able to see it. Anyway, back to Duncan. Duncan was one of the tutors on my reader training course, and he encouraged us as much as possible to keep up with television dramas so that we could reference them occasionally in our sermons. So really that's my justification for watching all sorts of things. Breakfast is usually Greek yoghurt and fruit in the summer and porridge and fruit in the winter, with the occasional croissant and cooked breakfast thrown in. The early morning walk gives me the chance to reflect on the jobs and activities for the day. Most days there will be phone calls. Always there will be emails, and always these days conversations and encounters by Zoom, WhatsApp or FaceTime, it seems. Although I'm reasonably proficient with technology, I do find some of its use quite challenging. At the end of my working life, the role I was in meant that I needed to supervise and mentor social work staff. It was usually non-stop from 8:30 to 5:15 each day, with a brief break for lunch. Having been lucky enough to retire early, I decided I wanted to spend my time in 3 particular ways. I wanted to spend more time with Molly, more time with the church, and more time having fun. Of course, none of those things are mutually exclusive. I can say so far that I'm managing to tick all 3 of them off. My skills as a social worker, working with older people, have been useful within our congregation, but surprisingly I have developed a ministry of young people's working and worship. This is such fun. I never really saw that coming. As they say, telling God our plans always makes her laugh. Being a retired person, I find my life incredibly busy and have not yet achieved a sensible work-life balance. Strange, really, because I've always been aware of the value of time and what a gift it is to have and to give. but my time management skills leave something to be desired. Lunch is usually a light snack, cheese and biscuits, cold meats and some fruit. Heinz tomato soup in the winter is a real treat. When the country went into lockdown, I set up a WhatsApp group for our church congregation, a way of keeping in touch with each other and keeping our spirits up. Never did I realise what a delightful and affirming group it would be. New links have been made, plants have been exchanged, memories and photographs shared, and of course the inevitable jokes. Cakes were made and sold for Christian Aid, and members have felt less isolated. It's been such a blessing to all of us who have joined in. Joining the benefice of ABC in the present times, I recognise how different things are because of COVID. I am by nature a gregarious person and greatly, as I've said, enjoy the company of others and getting to know people personally. I'm also optimistic, so hope in the not too distant future that this will become possible. During the long, hot, separated summer, much work has been done by us in the back garden. If you excuse the pun, I am not by nature a gardener, having grown up living mostly in flats. I have, as a result of COVID this year, learnt a few new skills, including how to drain a pond and set up a new pump and filter, how to set up a water butt, and far too much about drains. Having been licensed, as I said, since 2007, there's still an element of surprise for me when I need to prepare a sermon which people are going to listen to. Not being a natural reader of books, I have an ability to procrastinate with sermons for a considerable amount of time. Another aspect of my personality means that I'm better with deadlines. In the same way, when it comes to parking the car, I'm usually better in a tight space than one with lots of room. Writing sermons doesn't always come easy to me. I like to have read the Gospel well in advance and then spend some time reflecting on the passage, reading extracts from Bible commentaries and also other people's sermons on the internet. Sometimes I find I'm guided by the Holy Spirit. I try as far as possible to consider how this passage might affect all who listen and how relevant it might be for us today. The congregation of my home church have always been quite accommodating of my learning and development, and also enjoyed the odd occasional humorous moment. I often think when I'm preparing a sermon of some sort or some part of a service that people see me more as a Martha than a Mary, and I think to some extent that's true. From time to time, I also find it useful to browse through some of the books I have bought over the years at places like the Greenbelt Christian Festival. I am a particular fan of Ruth Burgess and John Bell from the Iona community, and also Mark Iaconelli and Nadia Bowles-Weber, a very strident Lutheran priest with theological tattoos up both arms. I am a person who likes to have lists, usually more than one. Always on my lists are phone calls to members of our church, friends, emails to be answered, and tasks relating to home admin. Although I think technology has made some things easier, if you're not careful, it can also seem like an irritated friend sitting in the corner, waiting for your instant response. At some point of the day, there will hopefully be a more interesting dog walk. Molly is a bright little dog and understands when we are on our way to Hengersbury Head, a walk with wonderful sea views across Bournemouth Bay, nowadays punctuated with ocean cruise liners. Having not long been in our present home, there are always tasks to be completed, usually of the DIY kind. I set myself the goal of decluttering boxes in the loft during second lockdown, but as yet they wait patiently. Helen and I usually take it in turns to cook. We have one or two signature dishes each. Helen cooks rice to perfection, and I can do a reasonable moussaka. To complement supper, a bottle of red wine might be opened. I'm very keen on Montepulciano, or for special occasions, a Sant'Emilion. By the end of the 10 o'clock news, it's time to head upstairs and read a magazine, or perhaps do a crossword, before settling down to sleep, with a review and thanks for the day, and the hope that no thoughts will invade. This year at Christmas, of course, all will be different. One of the things I shall miss especially is talking to our children in the preschool about the Nativity story. The wonder and awe expressed as they walk through the church with all the fairy lights has been for me a magical moment over many years. Still, we hope that next year things will be different again. So now, the best advice I was given. I don't actually think I was given this advice by a person directly as such, but I think it's a quotation that I've heard, quoted and read. Try everything once except country dancing and incest. The thing is, I quite like country dancing. Advice I'd give, well, we do know it's always dangerous to give advice, really, but one good piece of advice that I think is worth saying often and reminding ourselves of, really, is you always have a choice. And lastly, what I wish I'd known. Well, I suppose when I was younger, this is a piece of information that would have been helpful to me to have known. Be yourself as far as possible. It's what others want to see. When we're younger, we don't always appreciate that. I hope the rest of the Christmas season is a blessed time for you, and I look forward to meeting some of you next year. God bless.